Hello everyone, welcome back to the Boudoir. I don't know who needs to hear this, but you are responsible for creating joy in your life. Unfortunately, yeah, it has to be you. And you know, I was just thinking about this past week because there's so much going on in the world, and I think that art should reflect the times. I do consider this podcast like my creative outlet, one of them. I have so many, which we'll talk about soon in this video, but I have a lot of creativity to give, and I think that a good measure of how real and meaningful the art is if it reflects the times. And I'm not gonna sit here and act like everything is perfect, especially if you live in America. I don't even have to get into what's going on. You're seeing it, like there's literal real life fires, things are burning, things are up in the air. There's a lot that we don't know that's gonna happen, and it's actually very scary. And I've been thinking about the fact that we really are responsible for creating joy in our lives. Nobody, no thing, no activity is going to bring us joy if we're not actively seeking it out. Like, that's something that we actually have to make a practice, and I really just want to sit here and talk about this today because I feel like we really need to hear it. It's so easy to get caught in these rabbit holes and just keep going down. Every time you hear something crazy going on in the news, which is like every day, every second of the day, like, it's actually insane. Trust me, I get it. The times are pretty unprecedented. Like, what's going on? I'm also very confused, just as you are, okay? Because things are so crazy, these people don't want us to feel joy. Like, they literally don't want you to do anything except think about how bad things are. Think about how unhappy you may be in your life. Think about your job you may hate. Think about all the things you wish you could do but you don't have the energy and all the what ifs. That's what they want. It can be really easy to fall down that rabbit hole of like, I should be doing this, I could be working out, why am I not getting out of bed? I need to work harder, I need to make more money. Like, all of these pressures. And that is what causes depression. That is what causes you to be in this like sunken down place where you don't want to do anything. Nothing is bringing you joy because you're so used to seeking out the negativity and all the bad that's going on in your life. And it's not that you're intentionally doing that, it's just things are that way. Like, I just want to make that clear. This is not just like, oh, you're depressed, you're seeing something bad, like you're just trying to be negative. I feel like that would be very disingenuous of us to say, like, no, things are actually bad. Like, for real, for most of us. Like, I think we have to be honest with that. I think that us in this like self-help type rhetoric, we have to be careful that we're not speaking in passive language. Like, to me, saying you are making yourself depressed, considering the times we live in, I think is very disingenuous, and I think that's actually a gross misunderstanding of what's actually happening. So I'm never gonna be the person that's like, oh, turn a blind eye to what's going on in the world, don't look at things for what they are. Like, that's actually the exact opposite of what we do here on the Boudoir. So like, I will never sit here and tell you don't pay attention, don't look at the news, don't, like, no, you should stay informed. I think part of being a good citizen and being a good neighbor to your fellow citizens is staying informed, is trying to be as aware of what's going on with other people as you can. Do you have to be at the top of every single activist thing? Do you need to be leading the charge? You need to be on the front lines? Absolutely not. Everybody is not meant to do that, okay? Like, everybody can't be that. And that's okay. In the midst of that, in the midst of you understanding what's going on and seeing it physically on your phones, in the newspaper, on TV, in real life, you also have to couple that with, okay, yeah, this is happening, but this is not the entirety of my day. This is not the entirety of my 24 hours. Yeah, I'm seeing this really crazy headline. Yeah, I'm seeing this like insane, intense, disgusting news clip, but that does not have to make up all 24 hours of your day. We have to start taking life day by day and not, you know, looking at these big chunks of time. That's another reason why you might be depressed, is like, you're looking at things so grand and you're thinking, oh my god, I'm this age, I haven't made $1 million yet, I haven't ran my own Fortune 500 company yet. Yeah, because you're 25. Like, it's okay. Even if you're like 35 or 45, like, there's no one time limit for everybody. Like, everybody's different. So I feel like when you put too much emphasis on like, by age 30 I gotta have a family and be married and have a car and all that, like, that is what's creating the stress, the unnecessary stress that nobody asked for, because you're just putting all of these like time restraints on yourself when you know you can't handle it. You know it's gonna make you sad, so why are we doing it? I don't know. Because we feel like, putting a number to things makes it more attainable, yes. But when you're putting so much emphasis on the time, I feel like you don't really get to enjoy life for what it is. You're too focused on like, oh my God, I'm not here yet. I'm such a failure. When it's like, no, what if it was gonna come tomorrow, but you just gave up? You just gave up. You didn't even see what was gonna happen. Like, maybe it's not your time yet. Maybe you still have, that's like something I actually had to learn, like thinking that you need to have things by a certain time. I need to have a certain amount of subscribers by this time. Like, if I don't have X amount of subscribers within a year, like no, like you should do things because you genuinely have a joy and passion for them, not because you're looking for an outcome. That could be a part of why you're doing this. Like, obviously you're gonna work because you want to have money, you want to live a comfortable life. It's not bad to want that, but you also have to actually like what you're doing. Otherwise, it's gonna feel like you're literally being tortured. Free yourself from this like, oh, it has to happen by this time. If it doesn't happen, I'm completely, it's over. It's all over. No, it's not, girl. It's just starting. You might just have to learn an extra few things, okay? Like, you might just have to learn some lessons, learn them again. Maybe you didn't learn the first time, or you just have to live more life. Like, maybe it's just not your time yet. Sometimes you look back and you're like, oh, I'm actually happy I didn't have this amount of success at this time, because like I didn't even like process yet. Like, I'm still learning so much that like the responsibility of having that thing would have been probably way more stressful than the idea of like, why don't I have it yet? Sometimes the grass is greener on the side that you're on and not the other side. I think I said it right, I don't know. But yeah, like sometimes what you have right now is your blessing, and like the thing you think you want so badly is going to curse you and is going to make your life way harder than it needs to be, and it's just not for you. Or it's just not for you right now because you're not ready to have that yet. And you should take that as like almost a sign of relief of like, okay, I don't have to bear the responsibilities of having this thing, because we all wish for the thing, but we don't even like process what's gonna happen after I get it. What's gonna happen after I get this Hermes bag? Now what? What's gonna happen to me? Am I gonna lose 30 pounds? Am I gonna, travel to a beautiful faraway island? Like, what's going to come of this? What's gonna happen once I get this job? Or what's gonna happen when I get into this relationship? Like, is it all just everything's gonna be magically fixed? No, you're still gonna have life. You're still gonna have bad days sometimes. Things are not always going to go your way. And so that's why, like we were talking about last week, try not to put so much value in like the external, because you get so hung up on the thing that you forget why you even wanted it in the first place and like what you think it's going to bring you. You think this designer bag is going to bring you some sort of popularity or clout. You think having 1 million subscribers is going to bring you all this money, when there's people that have millions of subscribers that don't make a lot of money on brand deals. Like, and then there's people with like 4,000 that are making so much money. Like, it's all relative to the person, which is why you shouldn't put so much expectation on the actual details and the when and the how. So because joy is your responsibility and it's actually something that should be a daily practice, how can you find joy? Where do you get joy? Is it something you could buy? Is it something you could wear? Like, what is it? Well, that's all up to you. That's something that you have to define. It's usually, I feel like a good place to start is your childhood, like all of the things you like to do when you were a child, because you didn't really have like the knowledge of how society could be. Like, you didn't know that people could talk about you. You didn't know people could find you cringe. You didn't know that whatever you were doing was weird or whatever. Maybe you liked to draw as a child. Maybe you liked to play with dolls. Maybe you liked fashion. Maybe you liked to read. Those are probably the closest things to what truly makes you joyful, because that's when you were at your most inhabited. That was when you were your most carefree and just literally childlike. So you didn't have any sort of like borders on where your imagination could take you. So I feel like that is a great place to start with joy. Like, for example, for me, I've been reading a lot more because that was something I truly loved as a child. I just love like being able to pick up a book and just immerse myself in that world and just forget about everything else that's going on around me and feeling like I'm literally a part of the story. And it just brings me so much like true unfiltered joy, not this like fake dopamine TikTok scrolling, like, momentary dopamine hits. Like true actual fulfillment. Knitting, doing things with my hands, making projects, and like bringing something that's in my brain and making it come to life. Like those are the things that truly bring me joy. And so I think doing a lot of that, or as much as you can of that every day, is going to really be a great start on your journey to joy. Also, being able to recognize when something no longer brings you joy. Like sometimes you think you're so passionate about something, and maybe you genuinely were for a season and it was bringing you the joy and fulfillment you needed, but then 2 years later, a couple months later, you're like, actually, I don't actually want to do this right now. It's not bringing me joy. It's actually bringing me more stress than I thought. It's like a lot more than I can handle. You have to know when something is not bringing you joy, and knowing when to let things go, or at least put them down for a little bit. You don't have to be tethered to something. You don't have to be tethered to a hobby or even a career path just because you went to school for it or you picked that as your major, and so like you feel pigeonholed in that. You never have to. To me, life is supposed to be explored, and you're supposed to do things. You're supposed to pick things up, put them down, try things, hate things, love things. Like that's a part of the human experience. Like we have free will. We're supposed to collect these little like fun factoids about ourselves and figure out what we like, what we don't like, what we kind of sort of like sometimes, once in a blue moon, what we never want to do. I think people pigeonhole themselves and they think like, oh, I've stuck with this niche and now I can never stray from it. I was a makeup girl, now I can never do makeup videos, even though I really want to talk about birds, I really want to talk about books, I really want to talk about blah blah blah, and then they just continue to do something that makes them miserable, and then they crash out. It's like, girl, it's not bringing you joy right now. And it's not to say you'll never like makeup, or maybe you just like makeup, but you don't want to necessarily make that your main focus. Maybe you just want that to be a little piece of who you are or what you show online. That's okay. And yeah, maybe you had people that followed you initially for your makeup, so they might either dip and find somebody else or just maybe not be as engaged with your new bird content and reading content. But that's a sacrifice you gotta make sometimes. Joy does come with sacrifice. Sometimes it really does. Sometimes you might have to take a pay cut and just work somewhere else that genuinely makes you happy, even though that cushy job, you know, in New York City was literally your bread and butter, but it was making you miserable. Like, joy does come with sacrifice sometimes, unfortunately, you know? And once you find your joy, once you find that thing that really does move you, no one can take that from you. Even if, you know, things on the outside world look so bleak, or people that you know in your real life are just not doing it for you, you still have that to come to. Like, nobody can take that from you. They could try, but what did Beyonce say? You won't break my soul. Okay, and she never lies. So I hope this helped you find some sort of peace of mind in this big, crazy, messed up world. No, you don't have to be completely ignorant and just shut things out. I actually highly discourage you from doing that. But you also don't need to be locked in. You don't need to have all of the news notifications on your phone 24 hours a day playing. Like, you don't need to do that, because also, let's not forget, the news is actually designed to like put you in that fight or flight mode of like being alert, being on the dot, on the go, like ready to go anytime. So just remember that these things are made to seem really urgent, sometimes because they really are urgent, or they just want you to be in that like heightened sense of like panic, to the point where you want to consume more news so that you can feel like you're in control, but it's actually a false sense of control. You cannot handle the world by yourself, because you're not Tony Stark. You are not the Avengers. I fear you are just merely you. And that's okay. That's a superpower in and of itself. Because you are you, you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders by yourself. You know, your empathy is an amazing trait that's going to carry you so many places, but it's not your responsibility to save everything. And if you're somebody that has a strong sense of justice, like I can sometimes, that can be debilitating to hear, because you're like, no, I want to save the world. I want everything to just be fixed in the next 2 seconds. But unfortunately, we can't do that, because Rome wasn't built in a night. And as much as we wish there was more urgency on these like big matters, it's going to take a collective effort. And that should take a lot of the weight and responsibility off your shoulders, because you don't have to do it alone. We're all in this together. Or it's High School Musical. So I think I made enough music references in this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope this really helped you. Just remember that you can always change your mind. You can always pick things up, put them down. Don't let anybody make you feel like you're doing too much. Like, no, you're supposed to do too much. This is your life. If you're listening to me on streaming, Apple, Spotify, wherever else, thank you so much. Don't forget to hit that little download button so you can listen to this over and over and over again, to your heart's content. And if you're watching me on YouTube, thank you very much. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, but I'm sure you have, right? Wink, wink. And that's it from me. I will see you guys next week. Have an amazing week, okay? Bye.